Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Mandossian, and if you and I have never met, I am the current Chief Marketing Officer for danlok.com. And if you don't know who he is, it really doesn't matter if you don't know who I am or who he is. What matters is if you have a book in your heart and you're a first-time author and you haven't gotten to that outline or table of contents, if you're at a manuscript phase, if you haven't gotten it published, or if you have a book and it's not a bestseller, if you don't have any contacts who are assisting you to promote the book, if you want the bestseller book beyond Amazon, then you're in the right place. We'll talk about why a book in this digital age. We'll talk about how other authors have handled the same challenge that you may be facing right now with outlining and writing, because writing is not fun. In fact, I have a good friend who writes a lot of fiction. His name is Stephen Pressfield, and he wrote The War of Art and Turning Pro. And he said, writing is easy. It's sitting down to write that is difficult. And so if you can relate to that, keep watching, because you'll find out with my dear friend and guest who I'm interviewing, it's my job to grill him. You may have a chance to be one of the few, less than 20 people, to meet at a book writing retreat, not in Hawaii, not in Canada, but in Guatemala. And all food is paid for and all accommodations are paid for. You just got to get there and pay the tuition, and we can discuss what that's all about. I'm planning on being there, and you can join me. And it used to be a month, but it's 1 week. That's the reason why I can be there with my partner who's writing her second book. She is formerly a trauma therapist. Her name is Eileen Smith. You'll get to meet her if you do join us. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I want you to know what a book is these days and what it takes to write one and outline one, why it takes so much time to outline one, where the retreat is, when it is, and also what it takes to publish it. But I want to bring in my good friend, Michael Drew, and we have crossed paths in many places. We share the same affinity for one of our mentors, Roy H. Williams at Wizard Academy. And these days, Michael is looking like a biblical figure, but we won't hold that against him in any way. But Michael, welcome to the webinar. We're going to make this nice, sweet, and short, but I'm going to dive right into why a book. I mean, I know you're committed to books. I know you've had so many New York Times and Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestsellers, but why are you still pimping out the topic of writing books?
So what people don't understand is what a book is. Right. When we look at marketing, when we look at influencers and thought leaders, we think about videos and programs and blogs and all of those things. But in reality, those are simply forms of communication in a non-intimate environment. A book is the original form of non-intimate communication, but it hasn't lost its validity. Rather, it's the context for when we and how we use a book has changed. A book is a long form of content, not short or medium or micro like a social media post. It's long form content. So books are a very powerful tool to, number one, start a conversation, and number two, deepen an existing relationship. And not only is it great for doing those two things, it does so with a very high level of credibility. There's a certain level of academic standing that we apply to books. So when you write a book in the proper way, you're looking at it in context of the conversation that you're having with an existing customer, or in terms of starting a conversation with a potential new customer and adding that academic quality to the content that you simply can't add any other way. And what I would indicate to you, Alex, is that I have found for my clients have made tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, that the proper promotion of a book, because of what the book brings to the table, is their number one tool for the building and growth of their company.
So bottom line, the way I look at it, it's not just a book that is perfect bound, whether it's hardcover, softcover, or Kindle, but it's a real book. It is a declaration and the premise behind what this particular author, which is short for authority. And we didn't really plan this interview, so I'm really hitchhiking and riffing off of what you just said, but we're talking about a real book, right? And
Absolutely.
The only way a real book is a real book and becomes a bestseller, and it's not just your business card, as many people have talked about, but it can be repurposed into a workshop. It can be repurposed into a course, into a membership site. It could be 2 to 3 years of blog posts. It can be a YouTube channel. It can be repurposed with Instagram posts and Facebook members inside your fan page and within Facebook groups. It doesn't matter. You can have a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group or a Signal group. It doesn't matter whether it's web app based or not. A real book is a compilation of your ideas that is bound, where people can curl up on their couch, sit on the toilet, be in their bed, and read a chapter or two a day, or read the whole damn thing and highlight it. So how do real authors, authorities, how do they outline books? Most people don't know how to outline. They've never been taught. There are plenty of book writing courses, but in your experience, and you have hundreds of New York Times bestsellers, how do they really outline, and how did you come up with your own source of outlining, which this retreat is all about?
It's a really good question. And I think one of the important things to note is that in nonfiction writing, especially, the quality of your outline dictates the quality of the presentation and ergo the quality of the book. In nonfiction writing, your objective is to not only persuade, change the hearts and minds of your reader, but give them the tools that they need in order to affect a change. That change could be in diet and health, that could be in leadership or marketing or sales. But the reason someone reads a work of nonfiction is because they're trying to define and create an outcome. And so what we look at then is what our mentor Roy Williams would call the 4 pillars of effective communication. And so what we do within the outlining process, our outlining process, is make sure that we are creating content in a way that is palatable and presentable to the audience so that they not only understand it, but they're able to put it into effect. And that's the really important thing. It used to be that folks would sit in their ivory tower and spend 3 months writing a book and put it out and hope that it worked or not. But in today's marketplace, there's so much competition for share of mind and share of voice that you have to be very intentional. And what you're trying to do is create an outcome, a positive outcome, to establish trust with the reader. And so what we do within our outlining process is, well, first of all, it's important to know what Hemingway said. There's no such thing as a good writer, only a good editor, right? And so the writing process is a right brain process, which is about pattern recognition. The editing process is a left brain process. But the creative process works best when you're merging those two things together, process and creativity. And so what we do, I trust the pattern recognition of the right hemisphere processes to be able to architect within a structure the pattern that you're actually feeling and seeing and believing in. And so what we do is we've structured, created an outlining process, and it takes the majority of the time that we're going to spend in Guatemala during that week. And we're going to spend a good solid week getting you into a state of flow, or a forced state of flow. And within that state of flow, which again is a right brain process, we're going to keep you, the process that we have will keep you organized so that flow comes out in an organized fashion, so that at the end of the process, you have a very detailed outline. In fact, at the end of the process, you'll have a full book outline, you'll have 16 chapters, you'll have 4 topics per chapter, and you'll know what the 4 pillars are for each of those topics. Namely, what's the big idea? What's the story? What are the nuts and bolts? And what is the hope? And once we've defined what that outline is at that level of detail, the creation of the content becomes very easy, because we'll have already have done all of the thinking within that outlining process. So then all you have to do is simply flesh that out, articulate the outline. No more thinking, just getting it out and getting it done.
Here's the thing. Many of you may be thinking to yourself that, okay, what's the big deal? Everything. Because you can't read the label from inside the jar. So you need to be part of a group, let's say cohorts, who are writing the book together. They have the same fears, frustrations, the same foibles, same aspirations, affinity groups that they belong to, affiliations, whatever you want to call them, that you do. And if you spend a week, that outline not only will be for your forthcoming book, even if you don't have a book in your heart right now. I know you want one. Why die without a book? I mean, your book is a legacy. And why not start it in the second month of the year? Now, this retreat, and we'll talk about the dates, and you'll see them if you decide to move forward, right? If you're a little bit suspicious, great. If you don't want to keep watching, don't. But the goal is, I'm going to be there. And if that has any meaning to you, then you can be there too. And we'll tell you what the tuition range of it is. It's less than $100,000 and it's more than $5,000. I can tell you that right now. And we'll focus on what that is. I'll tease you. You'll know it's on the lower end of what I just gave you. So the bestsellers you've worked with, Michael, and many people don't know who you are, but those who you've worked with know who you are. It's really hard to get a New York Times bestseller. It's really hard to get Wall Street Journal bestseller. Amazon, not so much, right? I can guarantee that. I have over 100 of those. But who are just some of the authors you work with so that the pedigree and the lineage that you work with at a young age, people can relate to? Go for it.
Now, I've worked on 124 books now, and 124 of them are Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and New York Times bestsellers. And what I want to point out is that the vast majority of them went through this process with me. Because, and this may sound like you, Alex, or some of the folks listening to this, but what they needed to do was eliminate writer's block. They needed to organize their thoughts, and they needed to accelerate the writing process. And by doing that, they're able to get into the functionality of what they're doing for their business. I'd like to point out, before I list some of these clients out, that we've built 110 authors' businesses by we've run it by $1 million permanently per year. We have 7 clients whose gross revenue permanently increased by $50 million per year, and we have 3 clients that permanently increased their gross revenue by $100 million or more, because they were properly using their book as a tool to grow their business. And in doing so, they needed to make sure that the structure of their book would be able to do that, which is the same structure that we're going to go over at the retreat in Guatemala. Now, some of those clients include people like you mentioned, Roy H. Williams. Others include people like Gary Keller and Ajay Papazan. We worked with them on a couple of books, including the best-selling business book of the last decade, The One Thing, or Marshall Goldsmith, the author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, including the #1 best-selling book for the previous decade, which was What Got You Here Won't Get You There, or T. Harv Eker, who's a good friend of both of ours, with the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. My clients read like a who's who in business and personal development. Likely, if you could name the person, if you can't name me, if you can't name Alex, name the influencer or thought leader, and chances are I've probably worked with them. If you've eaten at a fast food restaurant, if you've drank soda, if you've bought a house, if you've bought a car, if you've been motivated, if you've hired a marketing agency, if you've done leadership training, then you've probably worked with one of my clients, because the heads of all of those industries are my clients.
And here's the thing. We have talked about, why a book these days. Okay, it builds a platform for you. It's a starting point. It's not something that's just hearsay, conjecture, and okay, let me put this on social media to repurpose. It's something that is going to be of value for many, many years. Hopefully you write fewer books and you repurpose that book more often than putting out 1 or 2 books per year, or 1 or 2 books every couple of years. That's what I happen to believe in. I also know that one person who did a lot of rewriting was Ernest Hemingway. I think Old Man and the Sea had 24 rewrites, and he used simple words, not the $100 words. James Michener, who was buried in Austin, Texas, where you used to live part-time, and Wizard Academy is there. He sold over 100 million books that were fiction, but the point is, he wasn't a very good first iterative writer. First iterations, first drafts sucked. And he's famous for saying that, right? And then, who the bestsellers are, well, you just named a few. You could be the next one as you're watching right now. Let's talk about, what is the book retreat? Now that we know the why, the how, and the who, what is this book retreat? I could not go. You've had it before, but I can't spend a month. So this outline process and getting you out of the atmosphere, if a rocket is going to go land on the moon, 85% of its fuel is used up in the first 100 kilometers for 75 miles. That is where all the gravity is. You're going against gravity. The 15% to land on the moon, if that happens and then come back, that's 15% fuel. So getting you out of the atmosphere is the hard part in writing the book. Writing the book is easy once you have the outline and the chapters. Michael mentioned the 4 pillars and then 16 chapters. Could you have more? Sure, you could. Could you have less? Of course you could. But knowing how to do the outline, all you got to do is learn it once and you'll do it again and again and again and again. It's like riding a bike or swimming. And I could mention a few other things, but it may be offensive to you. So what is this book retreat in Guatemala? And the next one coming up is the first week of February. So take us away. What is it?
Just to really quickly echo on what you just said about Hemingway and Michener. Roy Williams is saying, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. Meaning, if it should be in the world, it's better to have something done poorly in the world than to not have it in the world at all. And it's this mentality that Americans, especially people in North America and Western society, have regarding having to do things perfectly. And it's this drive for perfection that creates procrastination, because if we can't do it perfectly, then why are we going to do it? We're not going to do it at all. Well, what we've done in our process is going back to that Hemingway quote of that there's no such thing as a good writer, only a good editor, to your point of 26 edits on The Man on the Sea. But what we're doing is we're simply going to get your right hemisphere of the brain to vomit onto paper in an organized fashion that we're providing to be able to get it out. The very first thing that's keeping you and most people from writing is analysis paralysis, or the need for perfection. And the inability to get past that is what keeps most of us from being able to do that work. And so the purpose and objective of the event is to help you take the ideas that are already in your mind and heart and put it down onto paper to be able to create that outline and the book itself. And so what we've done is we've taken 24 years of processes and systems that I've done with my New York Times bestselling clients, and we've created a simplified system that is foolproof, that we can take each and every one of you through. Now, one of the challenges, Alex, that you gave me was that you didn't have the ability to come down to Guatemala for a month. We've been doing the full book writing retreat in Guatemala for the last couple of years, and we've been doing it for a month. Now, granted, the difference between what we're doing and the full month retreat is that the full month retreat, at the end of that month, the entirety of your book will be complete. What we've done for you at your request, and to be able, because I really want to get you down there and to be able to make you a bestseller, is we're consolidating the outline process into 1 week. And what we're doing is we're asking for you and 20 other folks to contribute one chapter from their outline. Your outline, as mentioned earlier, will have 16 chapters. Well, we only want one chapter written from each of the 20 attendees that are coming down, including you. And as part of the price, we're going to be making and running our Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller campaigns. So every one of you will have the outline to be able to complete a full book. The very first chapter that you write, that you focus on, which we'll decide at that retreat, will be included in a multi-author book, of which each of you will be a co-author of, and will make a bestseller, ergo making each of you a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author. That next retreat is going to be February 5th to March 5th, or February 5th to March to February 11th, the full week, is Sunday to Monday. We're asking people to fly in the day before, of course, so that we can get going first thing in the morning, because we're consolidating a month of work down into 1 week.
Let me refine that. Michael is used to the 1 month, so it's not February to March. It's February 5th. You land on the 4th, Guatemala City, and you end up a couple hours away. You'll find out where, if you decide to not only book an appointment, but to fill the application. Don't waste your time. I mean, if it's not in your budget, don't do it. It's okay, right? If you're knee deep in debt and can't see a way out, don't do it. If you have a book already, you think you got it dialed in, don't do it. But if you finally want to learn the way that best-selling authors that he's mentioned, as well as others, outline their books so you can do that for the rest of your life, maybe even teach others and make a business out of it, then this could be an opportunity of a lifetime. At least you'll find out through the interview and application process. So when is it? The next one is in February, beginning of February. It's 1 week instead of 1 month. That's why I'm going to be there. Look at it as a book writing mastermind, and you'll become a Wall Street Journal bestseller, which you can't do every day as a team published book. But your book, now, my partner, Eileen, she has a second book coming out. She doesn't have a working title yet. I have a book, a real book, not Alexisms, which is a bunch of sayings, 140 of them that I chose from 550. And I did that just because people would utter those on stage, and then I'd look like the liar or the plagiarizer after I got on stage, and they were students of mine, right? So that's why I did Alexisms. And I took our mutual mentor's idea by only showing half my face on the book as the cover. Don't know if it's the better half or the worst half. And I made the spine not say the title of the book, but a call to action. Read this 10 minutes a day. That's what it says on the spine. Because who said the spine has to be the title, right? Because it's not sold in stores. So it works quite well when it's on your bookshelf, because it's the only call to action on the spine. I thought it was very clever. Does it work? Who knows? In Asia, they'll buy $5,000 from me. Running in the back of the room, I'll make $500,000, but they want that hand signed book from me. So don't ask me why. My mother still calls me Hey. It's not even Alex anymore. So it just depends on who's coveting, that piece of literature. So if you believe it's worthwhile for you, if you have one in your heart, when is it? Early February. Where is it? In Guatemala. Where will you land? In Guatemala City. Now, lodging is taken care of. So you're not going to be at a resort that costs $500 a day or more. You're not going to be at a resort where it's going to cost you $250 a day to eat. Okay. Everything will be taken care of. And it's not going to be 100K. It's not going to be 75K, which Michael would charge you if you personally consulted with him in your backyard where you live right now on Zoom, or you can physically visit him and you have to pay for the flight and the hotel room and the food, right? So it's not 20,000, which it used to be. It's 10. And why is it 10? Well, because that's basically a little break even. We got to have over 10 people just so he makes money. And I'm going to go there, and Michael doesn't know this because I didn't want to, have him steal my thunder beforehand. But I've had a book in my heart where I've done a public domain speech, like P.T. Barnum sold his autobiography to 5 different publishers and got lots of publicity. I got that idea, and I have this TED Talk, which has been a 10-minute talk at Genius Network. I've given it at Harvard Business School, and it's called Discover Your Verb. And that talk is public domain, but the book is not. It's intellectual property. And I don't know if the title is What's Your Verb, or I don't know if it's Discover Your Verb. I happen to like the question more. If you're there, you'll get to vote on it because the title is very important to me. And I want to finish writing that because I do believe your verb is your one-word language to change meaning for you for the rest of your life and leave a legacy with one word. My verb is engage. I engage, therefore I am. I'll give my speech there. And just as a bonus, it's public domain. You can utilize it. It's the best icebreaker I've ever given at any event, whether there's 1,000 people or 10 people there. Let's talk about publishing. That's a little surprise for Michael because I wanted to kind of unveil something. So I'm going to work on my book with you. I'm going to be a student, shoulder to shoulder. So the question is, if not this, then what? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? You've heard that before. Why this? Well, why not? Why us? Well, why not? Why not us? And then why now? Well, if it's not urgent, then stop watching. But there's an application process, and we want to make sure you're the right fit for the room. There'll be less than 20 people there. There may be less than 10. We'll see. But let's talk about publishing just to put a bow on this package. How has publishing changed over the years, and what can you do for publishing for someone who really doesn't know their way around the marketplace and has been taken advantage of?
It's a great question. Publishing has changed a lot, even in our lifetime. Between 1880 to 1980, the average number of books published each year was 40,000 books. Last year, there were 1,076,000 books published. So, the little thing called personal computer changed everything, and publishing more so than computers or the internet or anything else, because once we had word processing, every Tom, Dick, and Harry thought they could write. What that means is, functionally, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, publishers were able to make authors successful. They were able to go out, do the promotion, get the PR, get the retail distribution, do all of that work, and make an author successful. But in today's marketplace, there's so much competition for share of mind and share of voice, and even more competition for shelf space, that the publishers are now unable to make authors. They are now 100% dependent on the author's ability to market and promote their book. Publishers today are not that dissimilar to being venture capitalists, right? They're looking for authors business owners who've been able to go out and prove that they understand their market and they understand how to promote. So what I want to be clear about this and why this is important is that we are taking applications for Guatemala. This is not, probably 95% of the people who even apply from this call will probably be turned down, because we're not looking just for someone who wants to shell out money. We're looking for 10 to 20 people who are willing to invest into their book and into their business utilizing their book. Yes, part of what we're bringing to the table is this guarantee of making the Wall Street Journal USA Today, but I'm not just going to do that for 10 to 20 people just because they're giving me money. You are all coming together collectively to be able to create a book that you're all going to promote together. And what I want to make sure is, look, Alex is coming to this event because he wants to be a part of this, both in terms of this book and his other book, but I don't want to put people around Alex that can't support the book at the same level that Alex is going to be supporting that book. And so what we're bringing to the table with this is retail distribution and a publishing company and Pulitzer nominated journalists who are going to be editing your work. And we're going to be making it a bestseller, and we're going to be dependent on the right 10 to 20 people who are going to want to use their book this year to invest in building and growing their business. So if you're not only going to dedicate a week and some money to come down, but you're willing to leverage your time and effort and platform in the promotion of your business utilizing your book, then you're a good fit. Then we can leverage all 10 to 20 of you to be able to take advantage of what publishing brings to the table. What does publishing bring to the table? Academic quality and access to the media that you're not going to get any other way. It's going to it's going to separate you from your other competitors in your space and in your industry. And when we make you a bestseller, we're going to be taking you to that very next level that just to engage with me, you'd be spending $75,000. I'm still looking for 10 to 20 people who are investing the equivalent of $75,000, just not into me, into each other, right? Or more in terms of that promotion, because that's how I'm going to make sure that your book is going to be able to have the impact on each of your individual businesses.
If you do the math, Michael's break even before he makes $1 is around $90,000. About 9 people times 10, right? And so the goal here is not for him to make a bunch of money. The goal here is to make the connections. After a week, you'll have lifelong partnerships. Maybe a stranger that you meet there may become your best friend. And I'm going to show you what to expect, because there is an application process. But as we're looking at this page, you'll see this after you make your application in good earnest. And this book writing retreat, the first one is February 5th. Are there other ones? Yes. The end date is not March 5th, as you're looking at, because we haven't changed that yet. It's going to be February 11th. So you fly in on the 4th, you leave on the 12th. It's not 20,000, it's 10. What you get, who is it for, what to expect, those will be revised because this is the old page. The place is absolutely magical. So we don't expect you to pay in advance. We expect you to be interviewed. And there's really 10 things to expect. Read those 10 things before you speak to Michael or one of his advisors. In Guatemala, there's a lake there. You'll know where that is. You'll hear all about it. You'll be in Antigua at some of the time. I went to a wedding there, my friend David Bear and many other friends, and that was magical. But there are these volcanoes aligning this lake. There are, I think, 12 maybe or more communities there. You go there by boat. It is magical. It's the most magical place that I'd never been to before. And so it's a great place to outline your book and start writing, and you become a best-selling author just because of the team publishing concept. It is not 20K, it is 10. And then the first thing you got to do is go to this page, which is what's the URL? Because it's /VIP, but what's the starting URL?
It's the same site you were just on, bookretreat.com/VIP.
Okay,
right?
book
This is
retreat.
a VIP event, right?
Okay, so bookretreat.com/VIP. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. And when you get there, you're going to fill out an application, right? You're going to fill out an application. We're going to set up a call, and either you and I are going to speak, or a member of my team is going to interview you to see if you're a good fit for the retreat. Yes, we're charging $10,000, but it's not about the 10,000. To Alex's point, it's about the quality of the people that you meet. It's about the outcome that we create in making you a bestseller. And so the other thing that I want to point out is that you're going to meet amazing people. You're going to get a book outline that'll give you a content creation strategy for a year for your own book. You're going to be part of a best-selling book. You're also, as Alex said, you're going to be in one of the most magical places on the planet. The reason we picked, you asked this earlier and I didn't answer, the reason we picked Guatemala over Hawaii or Florida or anywhere else is because of how magical it is. First of all, the elevation is about 6,000 feet, the same as my home here in Utah, and there's no humidity there. So you're in the tropics with no humidity, which allows us to do what? It allows us to sit outside looking at the tropical vegetation and this lake, which used to be a former supervolcano, looking out in the distance into the 21 Mayan communities. It's the most unadulterated Mayan area in all of Mesoamerica, looking out at the volcanoes in the distance, 50 to 100 miles out, that are exploding all day long and into the evening and into the morning, having an amazing experience with the land, with the people, with each other, eating food from the owner of the facility that we're going to be at in February only, by the way. Used to own a Michelin-rated restaurant in New York. Best food that you're going to get on the lake and probably in all of Guatemala, in this magical experience. I can promise you that at the end of the week, your life will be changed. Your life will be changed, and you'll have a book, and it'll be a bestseller. You'll have 10 to 20 new friends who work at the same professional level that you do or better, who are all committed to you and each other in the promotion of the book and each of your businesses.
And you'll want to go back. And we just happen to have a book writing retreat, but the real reason this is in Guatemala, 6,000 feet elevation, more than a mile high, and no humidity, and these volcanoes, and they don't even know how deep that lake is. Till this day, they don't know how deep that lake is. I've been there. It is unreal, and it's very safe if you're wondering. So bookretreat.com/VIP. My final word is I will see you there, and it's up to you whether you'll make that happen or not. Final word from you, Michael.
Roy, our mentor, said to me a number of years ago, he said, the winners and losers in life are determined when the teams are picked. He said, Michael, there are two teams that are essential for your success. The team of people who select you to be on your team, and the team of people that you select to be on your team. I've been very fortunate to have been selected by some of the most brilliant men and women to be on their team, and I hope to be able to be on your team as well.
I was taught this many years ago. It's called a trial close, and I recommend it if you're selling a book, a chapter, an outline, or if you want to have a new child. What would happen if you didn't move forward with this decision? That's called a pregnant pause. Here's the answer. Nothing. Nothing would happen. And if that's okay with you, why have you watched so far? Out of morbid curiosity, like what's Alex and Michael going to say next? I have no idea. But what could happen if you did move forward? Something magical? Maybe a new best friend who was once a stranger? We'll get to meet. I'm going to be held hostage there. I told Michael, please protect me. I'm an introvert. He said he'd do his best, but you know that I'm going to collapse and just be there. And not only, writing my book, but be there on behalf of Dan Locke, technically my boss as his CMO, and myself, and of course, my partner, Eileen Smith, and she's writing her book. So I'm going there, part vacation, part work. But like the Beatles used to say, a splendid time is guaranteed for all, whether it's lodging, the food. And I just hope you're not a problem child, because everyone will know after the second or third day. So I hope you behave, and I hope our paths cross again then. Michael, thank you for this, and we'll see if we did our job or not. All right. All good wishes, everybody. Speak soon.
Thanks, guys.